In this video we're going to talk about the derivatives of the other four trig functions. We already talked about the derivative of sine and derivative of cosine, but now let's talk about the other trig functions, mainly tangent, cotangent, secant, and cosecant. I want to derive one of them for you, and then we'll write a kind of a conclusion with all the other trig functions what the derivatives actually are, but I want you to see at least where one of them comes from by doing this process. We're not going to do the limit process on this one. What we're going to do is we're going to change the tangent into sine x over cosine x. That's the identity from trig. The only reason why we're going to do that is because then we're going to apply the quotient rule to this one, and that's going to allow us to get the answer, the derivative of tangent x. So if we apply that, using quotient rule, we have the bottom, cosine x, times the derivative of the top. The derivative of sine is cosine, minus the top thing, which is sine, times the derivative of the bottom. Derivative of the bottom is negative sine x. Derivative of cosine is negative sine. So bottom, derivative of the top, minus the top thing, derivative of the bottom, all divided by cosine x. The bottom one is going to be squared. This will turn into cosine squared x. Minus minus is plus, so plus sine squared x. All that's going to be over, we can write that as cosine squared x, just like this. Here's that identity again that we talked about before in a previous video. Cosine squared plus sine squared is 1, which means your final answer is 1 over cosine squared x, but that can be written as secant squared x by applying the identity. So the derivative of tangent x is secant squared. So now let me just write a conclusion. I'll put the other derivatives up there on the board for you. Okay, so after going through that process, we found the derivative of tangent x is secant squared x. A similar process can be applied to find the derivative of this one, and then here's the derivatives of secant and cosecant. So this would be the derivatives of the four other trig functions. Of course, we have the two original ones we talked about. The derivative of sine x is cosine x. The derivative of cosine is negative sine x. So you got those two also, and then we have these four. So now you have the derivatives of all 6 of the trig functions. Because these are formulas, when you work out problems like this, you don't have to show the whole process using quotient rule, how to go from tangent to secant squared. You can just simply say that derivative of tangent is secant squared, and you can do that automatically when you work out the problems. So the videos after this will show some examples using these trig functions here.